Hi, April Jackson here with Open Up Pittsburgh from Open Spaces. And thank you for joining me right now. Hey, I have some wonderful footage from women that Wesley Hamilton and myself have had conversations with throughout the 2021-2022 year. It's Women's History Month, and we wanted to bring the voices of some amazing women. We wanted you to meet Lolo, who is full of fire, strong, loving, and just drops knowledge. We wanted you to meet Trish and Aida with Calling In and Up. We also wanted you to tap in and hear some words from Dr. Melissa Hankins as she sits with us, and Anna Du Bois Hankins. And then we tie this all up so beautifully with a talk from Nakeia Homer, who is a phenomenal woman who really helps us understand how our past fits into our current time. I love you, and I hope that this Sunday Safe Spaces March edition compilation really helps you learn and hear the voices, the intersectionality of women. And go ahead and hit those links that are going to be dropped below so you can listen to the full extended conversations.
My focus has always been about helping others. And really wanting to create representation for people with disabilities, and, you know, especially for Black women with disabilities, because I learned very early that when your focus is on helping others, your blessings come tenfold. So I never, and I also never limited myself on how I would share that message. You know, when I got the opportunity to act, I had never acted in anything before, but what it would mean to see a young Black woman with a disability in a film, whether it was going to be successful or not, thankfully it was successful, but whether it was going to be successful or not, what that would mean for someone who would eventually come across it. How that would change the narrative in so many ways was the most important part. So I had to figure out how to do this acting thing. And because of that, it allowed for more opportunities to act. But if I would have limited myself to say, no, I only do YouTube, I don't do that. That would be me blocking a blessing. That would be me blocking an opportunity to continue to spread the message. Because if the message is representation and disability, if a project comes along, an opportunity comes along that fits my moral compass, why not? Why not explore it? Why not try it out? Don't limit yourself in that way. And I think a lot of people do that, right? They're like, oh, well, I only do this and I shouldn't be allowed to do anything else. And it's like, no. Because if the message is this, then do that. And so as my platform has begun to grow, the more and more people are learning about disability. They're becoming more open-minded to disability, whether they're non-disabled or disabled. They're realizing that disability can be experienced in a way that looks cool, in a way that looks fun.
Working for an organization that has been around for 50 years, has been supporting community organizers over the course of those 50 years, incredibly powerful organization. And, you know, they were seeing like, oh, we have more folks of color who are coming into positions of leadership within organizations, and we want them to be powerful. Like, we want them to stand fully in their power. Can you create a program for us? That's what I was hired to do. Can you create a program that supports people to stand fully in their power? And, you know, we started from the place of thinking about traditional leadership development programs. And those programs often start from a deficit. You know, like she's pretty good, but these are all the ways that we need to train her up in order for her to actually be a leader, right? And even if that's not like the stated purpose, like that's really where, that's really how they're modeled. Those are the programs that I had gone through. Those are the programs that Aida had gone through. And I think even more sinister is that a lot of the programs look at, I mean, frankly, like white supremacist archetypes of leadership, right? They're about sort of like, this is power meant like domination, power meant like you have to be super organized, power meant linearity, power meant, being able to say that something was going to happen, whether or not you actually knew it was going to happen, right? Like being able to be decisive. All of these things that were not necessarily ways of being, cultural ways of being for the folks that were coming into the leadership of these organizations, right? And so we didn't want to build a training program that took leaders, especially leaders of color, especially women of color, further away from themselves, right? And that's what these programs low key were doing, right? They were like, if you want to be a good leader, you got to look like that. And that doesn't look like anybody they knew, anybody that they resonated with. So we basically had to build it ourselves. And I just wanted to say something else, Wes, about your grandma's house, because something else. So there are the practice parts of it, and then there are the parts of the curriculum that are about like, how do you create the environment, right, in order for you to be able to show up as yourself. And part of what we try to remember too is like, this isn't just like a stated commitment. Like you have to actually do things, practices. You have to like create a physical space that allows people to be able to show up. Like we had to provide childcare, right? When folks would come to our retreats, we had to, have a process in place to make sure that the folks in our space who were undocumented would get to us safely and could get back to where they were going safely, right? Because these are the realities of the people who showed up. When you go to your grandmother's house, they see you fully, but also I'm sure like she has created enough space in her kitchen that like you can move in your chair, right? So it's not just, I just want to name that. It's not just like, oh, we like Wes, we want Wes to be there. We want, I want April to be able to show up. Like if I want you to show up, like I have to actually move the space so that you can belong, right? And so how are we doing that in every space that we're in? And the curriculum tries to give you some tools around that.
It is being shown more, right? Like it is being shown that Black women can be successful, that Black women don't have to be on the back end, that Black women can come in and be themselves. And it starts with the hair sometimes. You know what I mean? Like that conversation of saying, keep your hair the way it is has shifted to people being more empowered about who they are. You know what I mean? And so from me looking out, I'm like, man, I see more Black women with natural hair, and kids too. And so I'm being able to tell kids like, oh my God, I love your hair. And I'm like, they're smiling and they're embracing it compared to when I grew up and you would never see that. You know what I mean? You wouldn't see the natural hair. It was like, oh, we got to get it straight real quick. You know what I mean? And so like, I have my sister that I grew up with. So it was like, I seen that. So I just wanted to share from outside looking in of the power that I think most Black men are seeing, right? Like, and it's giving us the ability to even influence these young women, because as much as our women want to figure out how to help our men, we're trying to figure out how to help these young women that are growing up and make sure that they develop and not worry about, like April said earlier, of the sexism and things like that of how Black women are directed or portrayed. Like look at me as a powerhouse and somebody that's moving mountains and not somebody that you trying to move mine, right? Like, no.
We're in a society anyway, at least in the United States, where it's like go, 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 go. If you're not going, then you're not doing enough. Then you're not showing up. Then you're not going to have the things. Then you're not successful. And once again, it's looking at what are whose definition of success, So it's really looking at how we want to define success for ourselves. And in order to actually show up powerfully for ourselves, for our families, for, those whom we're helping in whatever spaces, those whom we're leading, for us to show up, we actually have to first pour into ourselves. Because if we don't allow that time, that space, and that can be in all kinds of ways, that you need to get proper rest. I mean, just even from a biological, physiological point of view, you can't think properly if you don't get enough rest. And if you can't think properly, then you can't make the decisions that are actually going to move you forward, or that are going to be in your for your best self. So you need to be able to rest, and you need to be able to try to nourish yourself in good ways, whether it's food, whether it's spiritually, whether it's with exercise. All of these things are certainly from a pure biological point of view, these things are necessary for your body to actually function in its optimum way. And then, so putting aside even the physical part, in order for you to actually feel good about yourself, you're a whole person. We are all whole people. And wholeness is not just about focusing on one aspect of how we show up. It's not just the doing. And for those of us who are parents or have young people in our lives in some capacity, whether you're an aunt, an uncle, a teacher, whatever it may be, you have to remember you're modeling that for your young people who are watching.
One of the issues I see in my work with people and this idea of truth is they don't understand the concept of polarity, where more than one thing can be true at one time. And because we hold ourselves hostage to our past truths, a lot of times it's difficult to stand in your present truth or to have a vision for yourself in the future. And so if we collectively share our collective truth is what I'm saying, I think we'll have an easier route to this whole journey of truth. You know, I am who I am today because of who I was in the past. And so, you know, some people get to where they are and then they want to kill off, you know, who they used to be. I had a client last week. She said, yeah, I had a funeral for the old me. And I'm like, how dare you? You know, how dare you kill the person who brought you to this moment? How dare you kill the person who endured all of the trauma that you are trying to heal from, because they didn't give up. That person didn't give up. You're here. You know, how dare you not share that you're on the spectrum and you're living this beautiful life, inspiring other people because of what someone else might think? Or how dare I not say that I'm the product of teenage parents and I grew up in the projects because I'm afraid that someone won't see me as a college graduate and they won't see me as a songwriter who topped the Billboard charts. Like, one of those things are true and the other one can't be. And so when I share the message of truth, it's the whole truth. If you can't take the whole truth, then you can't take me. And I don't like to be in any space where I have to leave parts of me behind.